All right, guys, happy hump day. So in the past, you may have sensed my general disdain for humanity as dictated by TikTok trends. Well, someone has brought to my attention that another such trend has emerged. This time, women are intentionally getting pregnant with the goal of being a single mother. We don't need no men, no mo. Does that sound insane to you? Well, welcome to the world of TikTok, where you can find an asylum that best suits you. Plus, update regarding Pavel Durov, a Telegram founder. Well, the plot is thickening because we have just been informed that in addition to the over the weekend saga, him being wanted for being complicit in sex and drug trafficking, well, now the public is being told that on top of all of that, he's also a domestic abuser. Yep. Pavel Durov beats women, trust the science, or beats children, trust the science. I don't know. I'll give you guys an update. All that and more today coming up on Candace. I want off this planet. I want off this planet. All right, where should we begin? Let's begin on the topic of social engineering, because yesterday's episode, somebody commented this. I'll read it to you in its entirety. This is from Alex DeSimone. All of you in the comments will find this interesting. Candace brings up Edward Bernays often, so I watched a documentary on him called Century of Self. Just reminding you guys listening, Edward Bernays is the nephew, also a psychoanalyst of Sigmund Freud. The comment continues, it's on YouTube, and the way this guy manipulated the masses was fascinating. How he targeted your subconscious mind. So, for example, a cigarette company came to him and said, can you help us manipulate females to smoke because there's a taboo against it? So Edward Bernays hired a psychoanalyst to uncover what cigarettes mean to females. The psychoanalyst told him cigarettes were a symbol of male sexual power, and that if he was able to convince females that it was a form of independence and rebellion to males to smoke, then they would smoke. So on an Easter Day parade, Edward Bernays had high-class females smoke on cue while the media covered it. And the females called cigarettes torches of freedom. And from then on, females smoked in large numbers. That is a chess game that the population is not even remotely familiar with. The public needs to understand that this kind of manipulation has socially engineered the entire world. Yes, indeed, it has. And that's why I've been speaking so much about Sigmund Freud, utter perv, pedophile protector, and how they recognize that, yes, they could just make people do anything. Edward Bernays was like, I got Americans to eat breakfast, like eggs and bacon for breakfast. They also used these techniques to make Americans hate Germans so that they could go to war, 2 world wars with Germans, and people would have this sort of stench about the German population. And they, of course, employed Hollywood. This was in partnership with Hollywood. If you think about growing up, really every villain in any movie that you watched sort of had a German accent. Yeah, well, that was all part of an early propaganda campaign to make us hate Germans. And so it's interesting that people are now waking up to this, and you realize that, again, it is a partnership between the media, Hollywood, and psychoanalysts, and it is against the people for the most part. They're not socially engineering us to do good things. And so TikTok, when you look at that and you realize that they're sort of able to speed up that process and to make us behave in ways that are not natural to humanity, it's just not natural to our human existence to behave in these ways, right? Suddenly women are having a strange relationship with children. So you see some people that took on feminism and were like, I don't want to have children at all, which again, against evolution. How do we go on if women do not want to have children? And then, again, somebody pointed this out to me on TikTok, even in circumstances where the biological overrides and women are going, you know what, suddenly I feel my biological clock ticking. I want to have a child. They are social engineering women to want to do that without men. So this is my perspective. Don't hate me. Hate what's actually happening. I believe women are being socially engineered to hate men, and men are being socially engineered to be gay. Don't at me. It's just what I see. I've picked up on it. They're just making men more and more effeminate, encouraging effeminate behavior. And so to further that initiative, there's been a movement originally started by, you guessed it, a psychoanalyst. And that movement is called Single Mothers by Choice. And I'm going to let you hear about that on a recent CBS episode in which they were celebrating Mother's Day. And so they decided to do that by showing single mothers by choice. Take a listen.
In honor of Mother's Day this Sunday, we're taking a look at a growing trend in motherhood, women becoming single moms by choice.
I said to myself, in 15 to 20 years, would I be more upset that I didn't have a kid or more upset that I didn't fall in love and get married? And I was like, if I didn't have a kid, for me, I feel like my life wouldn't be as fulfilled.
40 years ago, when New York psychotherapist Jane Mattis became pregnant, fewer women were purposely having children on their own.
I was 36, and all my friends were actually having fertility problems, and it occurred to me that I might not have this opportunity again.
Over the years, that network has connected 30,000 women. Mattis attributes the growth to better fertility treatments, more inclusive medical insurance, a change in societal attitudes, and higher incomes for women.
So yes, that's correct. Jane Mattis founded the organization called Single Mothers by Choice, and this is directly from their website, explaining to women that visit the website what exactly it is to be a single mother by choice. It reads, it is someone who is unpartnered and decides to become a mother, knowing that at the outset they will be parenting alone. Single Mothers by Choice was founded in 1981 by Jane Mattis. Since then, over 40,000 thinkers, triers, and mothers have enjoyed the benefits of membership. It goes on to read, over the years, we have been the subject of many media articles as our society got to know and understand this new kind of family. You can read some of those articles here. Now, you might be wondering, if you're thinking about this, okay, all of these women are deciding to be a single mom. And of course, this is now going to get the glamour treatment. So, very beautiful women, and they're going to tell you how happy they are and how fulfilled they are because they had a child by themselves and how great their children are. But you do wonder, and I'm just going through this in my head right now, what about the men that are being raised in those environments? So mom decides to be a single mom. She picks, in America, you could choose gender. I'm going to have boys only. How do those men fare in society? Well, take a listen to one such case.
Brothers Mackenzie and Cooper Schoenthaler were chosen by their mother, a doctor, more than 2 decades ago. She had them at 41 and 45 using the same donor.
And see our parents cry, and scream and throw things, and because there weren't two parents.
How has that impacted your own relationships by not seeing tension, by not seeing people work through those same things that you spoke of?
I think that I am more conflict avoidant than other people as a result because I was raised in a household with zero conflict. Perhaps that's one of the drawbacks.
Gay. Sorry to say it. But, and by the way, I'm being 90s gay. Just not cool. It's not cool to raise men not to be men. There is an element, of being a man that is attributed to aggression. Aggression is not a bad thing. Now, these new psychoanalysts will try to convince you it is, but it's not. It's natural, It is a biological instinct for men to be aggressive. When I tell you that my son wakes up in the morning, grabs a sword, finds my husband, wants to fight, wants to beat him up, you see this and you go, this is phenomenal. And the reason why that is natural is because men are supposed to go out and defend. They're not supposed to be sitting in a classroom learning about their feelings and 76 genders that they can choose from. They are biologically inclined to protect and to defend. And so now what they're doing is they're removing that. And of course, like I said, that is going to be the circumstance when you have them surrounded by women, because I just think, wow, if I was raising my son alone, every time he comes at me with that little plastic sword, the first thing I say is, I don't want to fight. Come find mommy when you want to hug, when you want to be nurtured, So what's happening is you have these female breeders, so to speak, who are breeding that out of men. And let me tell you something right now, there is no society that can survive without strong men. And I think that, of course, is the purpose, to make sure that there is no threat that the government needs to perceive as they take over every element of our lives. Now let's talk about TikTok, because you know that TikTok is a psychoanalyst dream because it expedites this sort of social engineering. Like, they used to have to dedicate massive campaigns. Oh, it's so chic to smoke. Look at this celebrity smoking on Easter Day parade. And it's a freedom torch, ladies and gentlemen. They'd also have to dedicate these massive campaigns in the classroom. I've told you about how they got kids to just start losing their virginity. Planned Parenthood got into the classroom and they started telling them their parents were backwards, but that took years. That took an entire decade to flip around. And now they don't have to do that. because they don't need the time and the Hollywood idols and the media, because they've got social media. They've got apps like TikTok where you can just speed everything up. You've got algorithms that can brainwash all of these impressionable minds. All you have to do is take a look around. I mean, one such example, by the way, if you guys recall, on my old show, I interviewed a young man named Brianna Ivy who identifies as transgendered. We had a wonderful conversation. You should go pursue that conversation. And Brianna told me through tears, he agreed to go through the bottom surgery because he found people on TikTok that made him believe that he was transgendered when he was so impressionable, so young, early teenager. Rather than considering that he might be gay, he said that he was on TikTok and he just saw people glamorizing this experience. Like, you're going to be so much happier once you do this. And he went through the surgery that will forever be something that he regrets because he ruined physically his anatomy. Like, it did not go the way it was supposed to go. And the hospital just stopped taking his phone calls. So TikTok led to a surgery which you don't get any refunds. You don't get to go back and say, never mind. And that's the reality. That's the reality. This is why psychoanalysts like Sigmund Freud would have absolutely loved TikTok. Perverts would have loved TikTok. The original pervs of the psychoanalyst movement would have been like, this is an absolute dream. And so you look onto TikTok now and you say, how do they do this? Well, the first thing is you have to sort of have someone that very rationally explains to you why this is actually really a good thing. Chris, I'm going to have you bring in right now just to show them the clip of the woman with the brunette hair who's slowly explaining why it's actually not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. And people should realize that it's a good thing to be a single mom by choice. Take a listen.
So people have this idea that being a single mom by choice, which is using a donor to have a baby on your own, is like this wild thing. It's so outlandish and crazy. But today was just a reminder because we're going to visit my grandmother's grave. And she was a mom of 6. She ended up being a single mom later in life. She lost 2 of her children way too young. But it's just a reminder that life just goes by like this. And if we allow the judgments and opinions and perceived judgments even of the people around us or people we don't even know to dictate the way we live our lives, we're selling ourselves so short. If you feel called to have a family of your own, even though you're not married or doing it the traditional way, stop being hard on yourself. You deserve to create the life that you want despite those circumstances. Okay? Life is freaking short, man. It goes by like this.
And that, my friends, is how young, impressionable minds, she's a bit older, brain is developed. I think your brain develops about around the age of 26, 27. And people whose brains are not developed, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, are watching that and they find their asylum, right? That's what TikTok does. You find your insane asylum. So when you see younger women who have opted to have their fallopian tubes removed at the age of 19 because they say they never want a kid, well, they found their asylum where people are telling them that having a kid is horrible. And then you have people who have their whole life ahead of them and could meet someone and start a family and offer that child the best chance at life. Statistically speaking, rationally and spiritually speaking, your child is going to be infinitely better off if they grow up in a stable 2-parent environment. But then they've got these people telling them that, like, you just choose it. Just make a decision by yourself. You're big. And she sounds rational. She's saying, like, life is short. Everybody loves that. You put that on a bumper sticker. Life is short. Have a kid without a father. And they listen to that. And then what happens on TikTok is somebody speeds that up and tries to make it look like cool and funny. And here's an example of just that.
I'm a single mom by choice. Of course all my daughter's weird quirks are from her donor. I'm a single mother by choice. Of course we're spending all the holidays with my side of the family. I'm a single mom by choice. Of course I'm my daughter's favorite parent.
So sweet. Of course I'm my daughter's favorite parent. Of course we're spending holidays at my parents' house. It's not funny. It's actually just not funny what they're actually doing here because they're making it cool and catchy. And so when I went through this hashtag on TikTok, thousands and thousands of videos, which I'm not going to show you because these women were so young, of people who have clearly had their minds socially engineered to think that this is something that they should pursue. Young women, I'm talking 18, 19, 17, doing what she's doing, putting catchy music to it. right? Dances to it, because that really shows how mature and well-rounded you are when you're trying to make being a single mother by choice boppy. Like just throwing some music behind it and using a bunch of flashes and, oh my God, look how great my day is being a single mother by choice. I have zero regrets. This is so great. This is awful. It really is awful. And there's two things happening here. I want to be clear. I genuinely feel so sad for women because another woman did a video and said that she looked for a life partner for a long time and she's a single mother by choice because she didn't want to not have children. And that makes me sad because children are indeed a wonderful blessing. And when you see how women who want to aspire to that and haven't met the right person, you can see how that option looks to them. Like you look at that option, you go, I'd rather just be a single mother by choice. I have a stable income. And they're not doing it out of anything other than the natural biological yearning. But then they get on there and they inspire a bunch of people to do the same thing. And it isn't a biological yearning for them. It's simply just a fad. And it is a fad that is going to impact your child no matter what you think, right? No matter what you believe. But I'm a well-rounded person, I make good money. Your child is missing out when they don't have a second parent. You know, it shouldn't be a choice to deprive them of that. And I also want to be clear, what's really happening here, the larger picture, why psychoanalysts want to produce this result, why they want to social engineer this consequence is because, as I mentioned earlier, it gives the government ultimately more power, right? We are barreling very quickly toward the humanist agenda, right? The idea that people should not believe in a spiritual higher power, but they can just trust and come to and worship science. And I'm talking quote unquote science. When I say that science has become a faith, this is what I am referring to. And they've accomplished this, by the way. It's been a two-pronged approach. I don't want to put this just on the women that are out there saying, I can't find a man. Yeah, like I said, you have them social engineering a society in which men don't want to be men, right? What you're telling women to go sleep with everybody. You're telling them they have all of these options. They don't have to commit to these women. Why would they want to grow up, be a man, and raise a child? Women are giving everything for free, and they're also simultaneously looking at soft pornography everywhere. I mean, my husband's not even on Instagram. He's like, even Instagram has become soft pornography. Even if you read the Daily Mail, people are women who have their butt cheeks out, and she posted this on Instagram, and that becomes a story. So their minds are being conditioned in that way to be non-committal, and that is not manhood. And in response to that, and as a part of that, you have women who are offering men something they don't want. I'm a feminist. I can be bad all by myself. I don't really need you, right? I have that job. I'm making that money. I don't need to rely on a man. It's horribly toxic. It's backwards. And actually at its root, it's demonic, right? The nuclear family is the best guard. It is godly, it is wholesome, and it is the best guard that we have against extreme governance. And so when you see these sorts of things, you should obviously exercise extreme compassion for the women who have been brought toward this point in their life, but also recognize that it is, whether you want to accept it or not, a tremendous evil. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic. All right, guys, let me tell you about Field of Greens. Let's talk about something that's actually healthy. With a busy schedule, it can be very difficult to get all of your fruits and veggies. We all know that. And that's exactly where Field of Greens comes in. It's a powerhouse blend of whole fruits and vegetables, and it fits right into my busy life. Just one scoop a day, and I'm covered with the essential nutrients my body needs to stay at its best. Each organic superfruit and vegetable in Field of Greens was selected by doctors to support vital organs like heart, liver, kidneys, metabolism, and immune system. If you're on the go like me and want to keep your nutrition on point, Field of Greens is your solution. Right now, Brickhouse Nutrition is having an end of summer site-wide sale. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use code RUMBLE at checkout, and you'll get an additional discount on your order. Field of Greens is backed by a better health promise. At your next checkup, your doctor will notice your improved health, or you will get your money back. So don't miss this massive end of summer sale. Go to fieldofgreens.com, use code RUMBLE for extra savings today. All right, guys, now let's get into some stories. All right, so let's back this up. Pavel Durov is the 39-year-old founder of Telegram. He is worth billions. The app, I believe, receives something like 900 million visits every single month. And of course, this represents a threat to the powers that be if they do not allow a backdoor to be built. The FBI wanted to build a backdoor into the app to spy on us because their freedom is an illusion, as I've said. So Darav got arrested unexpectedly. Honestly, they issued the warrant 30 minutes before he landed at Le Bourget Airport outside of Paris on Saturday. And then they arrested him. And the charges are all trumped up. They were saying, oh, it's because, drugs are being sold on this site and there's human sex trafficking on this site. And that's the real reason that we, the drug traffickers and the human sex traffickers, want access. Yeah, right. Not going for it. But of course, when you start to see these things, when the state perceives you as a threat, they will just start drumming up things all over the place. And it looks like that is certainly going to be the case for Pavel Durav. Now, parking aside the fact that they're alleging that there's child pornography on the site, and that's why they're getting in there. That's why they're having to arrest him, pardon. He also simultaneously, it was just announced, now has a case that is being brought against him in Switzerland. So I'm going to update you on that because the public had not heard about this. And now, of course, they are, because the job of the media is to make us think that Pavel Durav is an absolute monster and he deserves anything that he gets, absent any facts, but really just the emotion that we're supposed to feel when we hear words like sex trafficking and domestic abuse, especially domestic abuse against children. So in Switzerland, there was a case filed against him by his former partner, a woman named Irina Bulgar, who claims that she has 3 children with Durav. Bulgar met the Telegram founder in 2012 when they were both living in Russia. That's what she wrote, at least on social media. 6 months later, they moved to St. Petersburg together, where their 3 children were born between 2013 and 2017. Well, she has filed a criminal complaint against Durav in Geneva. This complaint was filed, by the way, in March of 2023, alleging that Durav was physically violent toward one of his 3 children. Hang on here. In court filings, Bulgar alleges that Durav stopped seeing their children in September of 2022, and then he blocked access to the 150,000 euro per a month child support payments that he was giving her. So she was making $150,000 just for watching his children every single month. And by the way, that's not dollars, that's euros every single month. So she filed a civil child custody case shortly thereafter. He stopped the payments and she decided to start filing these cases against him. So that's for the domestic violence against one of his children and because she wants him to resume the payments. The Geneva Public Prosecutor's Office initially refused to enter the criminal complaint against Durav when they had received it because it had been filed more than 3 months after the most recent instance of alleged physical violence. In May of 2023, she appealed their decision and the court allowed the case to move forward last October. So to be clear, people are going to have some questions here. I have some questions here. And I think this is part of a need for us to be honest about the reasons why men don't commit, why they have this fear of committing. You constantly hear this. There's all of these communities that say men never get married, even though he is not actually married to her, never get into these relationships with women, because if they get upset with you, they're going to take you down with allegations. There are literal communities that are dedicated to this idea that you should not, there's no incentive for a man to get married and to have children with a woman because all women are a stereotype in which they will take everything that you have if they get upset. Now, the reason why people are going to use this, and by the way, I am not alleging it one way or the other. I don't know. I don't have the facts in front of me. But the reason why those communities will present this case as a situation that proves their theory is because you have a woman that didn't file these complaints until he stopped paying her, right? And now she's alleging that he was violent toward one of his children. We don't really know what that means, obviously. A lot of this is going to be locked down because it concerns a child. But if he was violent towards your children, why not file that before he stopped making payments to you, right? That's going to be just a common sense thing that people are going to ask. And I think that's a fair question. And I think it's a valid question to ask. The second thing is, what is violent towards children? What is violence? Because that has shifted very much over the decades. We're now in a society that believes that children have the right to punch their parents in the face if they get upset. You don't give your kid a toy. Yeah, well, you're going to get knocked in the eye. You're going to get a black eye from a little toddler who's upset. And you just have to understand that he's expressing his emotions. And you start seeing these kids who are just out of pocket, man. I mean, I have seen kids in public saying and speaking to their parents in ways that I just think, woof, I would have gotten the backhand, the front hand, the side hand, and the foot if I had spoken to my mother like that in public. I always got the pinch, ooh, that meant, we're in public right now, so I can't beat you up because people are watching, but when we get home, you're going to get beat up, And I lived, I guess, in the 90s. I grew up in the 90s, and people understood that kids were getting spankings one way or the other. And now suddenly, like I said, that's completely reversed, and everything can be considered domestic violence. Like if you pop your child, you could suddenly end up with a court case. We don't know the details, but the allegations are enough itself to sort of paint him as a monster. Is that fair? Who knows? But I do think it's interesting that this case was filed last year, at the end of last year, and now all of a sudden we're seeing it in the media, right? What does that tell you? Why wasn't it in the media last year? Why is it suddenly in the media during the same week that the state is going after him? That part is definitively because, like I said, the media is going to have to turn him into a monster. And the way that you do that is by essentially convincing the public that he's guilty before he's even had a trial. I want to be very clear. If he was extraordinarily violent to one of his children, she says that the child has PTSD and can't sleep, then of course that is a problem and he should be brought to justice. But I do find the timing of this breaking in the news to be extremely suspicious. So that is the point that I'm going to make about that. I'm going to tell you guys about Sticker Mule because it's exciting that we have just launched our new store on Sticker Mule. It's packed with awesome Candace Owens merch, including stickers, t-shirts, and much more. You just go to stickermule.com/Candace and check it out. A big portion of the sales will go directly to the Candace Show, supporting our mission to empower communities and promote free thought. So whether you want to show your support or just grab some cool gear, we have got you covered. Once again, go to stickermule.com/Candace. You can check it out right now. Okay, there was a debate in Trump land. Got to get your opinion on this. I'm going to slowly walk you through what's happened here. So essentially, Trump tweeted this about reproductive rights, right? My administration will be great for women and their reproductive rights. Now, people didn't like that immediately because when you think of any administration championing reproductive rights, you immediately think of a left and you think of abortions at 9 months and you think of my body, my choice and people that are wearing pink hats and saying that they're here to come beat up Trump. And so this did not land in a great way, but of course, I'm sure the press loved it because they thought that it was a great way to fracture Trump from his hardcore pro-life base. And a reporter approached him and asked him, hey, what is this? And here's what Trump said.
What led you to post about women's reproductive rights this morning? Has your stance on abortion changed?
No, very good. I'm very strong on women's reproductive rights. The IVF, very strong. I mean, we're leaders in it. And I think people are seeing that, and votes are being taken, and that's what they've wanted for years. For 52 years, they've wanted votes to be taken by the states, and they wanted Roe v. Wade to be brought into the states. And it's really happening. It's really happening.
So, like I said, this didn't land well with the pro-life community. A voice in the pro-life community is Lila Rose. She runs a not-for-profit and speaks all around the nation about the need for people to protect lives. And here is what she tweeted. She tweeted, if you don't stand for pro-life principles, you don't get pro-life votes. And this caused quite a reaction. There is a commentator named Ashley St. Clair who immediately went for the jugular with Lila Rose and was just like, what are you doing? Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, how dare you? How dare you when you just go around speaking about pro-life? And I'm really summarizing here what she said. It was a few tweets when the reality is that Trump has done more for the pro-life movement than any other president. Obviously, under Donald J. Trump, notoriously, Roe v. Wade was reversed, something that people thought would never happen. And it was thanks to the Supreme Court justices that he nominated. So I do understand Ashley St. Clair's feedback there. And the question does become for conservatives and Republicans who are speaking about this issue, what is your purpose? Like when you say you don't get pro-life votes, maybe what you mean to do is to challenge Trump, to be careful about that. Like to say, hey, don't say that because like we are your base and we care about this issue. But right now we're down to a two-person race, right? We've got Kamala Harris and we've got Donald J. Trump. So when you say this and lead up to an election, what you're signaling to the pro-lifers is stay home and don't give them your vote. And to stay home and not give them your vote means that you're signaling that it's just better actually to let Kamala win, right? And we know that she's an extremist when it comes to abortion. So she would bring forth things that are way worse, things that would be an absolute nightmare. Like I said, they were once championing 9 months. A woman can abort whenever she wants. 9 months in the womb, she can just say, hey, you know what? I actually decided after 9 months of growing this kid that I don't want it. And so I think it's really important for people to remember that when you are offering critiques and you have a platform and you're saying things, there's a way to be constructive in your critiques. I always try to be that way. Like, hey, you know, I really, really, really would like Trump to just be Trump and to fire a bunch of consultants and spend the last couple of weeks just being himself. But I think when you say you don't get pro-life votes, it is a little bit problematic. I think that it is handing it over to Kamala Harris at a time when we need to be realistic. We don't get to a third candidate. We've got two options here. It's Kamala and it's Trump. And all of us know that Trump will be better for this country socially, he'll be better for this country financially, and he will, in fact, be better for this country spiritually. And he has been a strong partner of the pro-life movement. And so judge him by his actual work and encourage people to get out there and to vote for him. Judge him by his actual record in terms of things that he has done for the pro-life movement and encourage people to get out there and to support him. All right, guys, before I get into some of your comments, I want to remind you about American Financing because interest rates have dropped. And right now is the perfect time to call them. Call my friends over at American Financing. They're a family-owned company that is helping people just like you create meaningful savings every month. Their salary-based mortgage consultants look at your full financial picture, including those frustrating credit card balances where you're paying upwards of 20 to 30% in interest payments every month. They work with you to create a loan program to wipe that all out, and in some cases have some cash left over to create some emergency savings. American Financing is a true partner in helping you and your family save money. They never charge any upfront or hidden fees. It costs you absolutely nothing to find out how much you can save. Their average customer is saving over $800 a month. And if you start today, you may delay 2 mortgage payments. So call 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, guys, I'm going to jump into some of your comments. I'm going to go through these kind of quickly because I need to pick up my son. I really want to do that today. So the first comment is from Donna Giamo, and she writes, I have heard people say that Candace has lost it. I disagree. Truly, Candace has found it. Thank you for all that you do, Nancy Drew. Thank you so much. I feel that way too. And I know that when they're trying to gaslight the public, like Candace is going crazy because she's reading books and understanding history and realizing that psychoanalysis is social engineering everybody into accepting what is a program that's being created by psychopaths who want to control everything. Yeah, that's what they say means that you've lost it. It means that I've lost their thread, you know? Angela writes, I have 4 autoimmune diseases. I hurt 24 hours a day. I'm only 49, have had these issues for well over 30 years. I actually started an all animal-based, no processed food diet 2 weeks ago, and I feel better than I have in a very, very long time. Angela is writing that obviously in regards to us speaking yesterday about the ways in which Big Pharma has intentionally harmed us. And it's so obvious. This is not a conspiracy. They are making us sick and they are doing it intentionally with bad food that isn't even food, by the way. It's just not food. And they want more of that. Like now they're saying, don't eat meat. It's an impossible burger. Well, I don't want a burger that's impossible. Can mine be possible? Thanks. I'd like mine to be a cow. Moo. Amy writes, I saw Kamala's speech at the DNC and looking at the crowd's enthusiasm, the only word that came to my mind was collective psychosis. Yes, that is the power of the media. They do not call it TV programming for nothing. They follow every beat, everything that the media tells them to do. They listen to, they follow the leader, and they truly believe that they're individual, educated thinkers, even though they're all doing and saying the exact same thing that their commentators and their journalists are telling them to do. It is weird. It is bizarre, but that is what a mass formation psychosis is. And there is indeed a mass formation psychosis on the topic of Kamala. Oh, I want to read this comment in closing, by the way. This is a police officer who wrote this. The handle here is Alcazar. He writes, I was a police detective in Philadelphia. A few years ago, I had a job where an NFL player was arrested on gun charges. The NFL had heavy influence over the police department. I submitted all the charges and they were accepted like normal. A few weeks later, I went back into the system to see the status of the case. Someone had gone into the system and dropped all the charges, deleted evidence, and completely reclassified classified the case to be a non-criminal investigation. Absolutely no one in the department had the right to edit that file but me. If that's what will be done for a bench NFL player, imagine what they'll do for A-list stars and federal informants. Yes, he was writing that in regards to us covering the Diddy case and realizing that the state is getting involved, that the police departments are involved, and has been going on for at least as long as the Manson murders. If you have not read that book, Chaos, absolutely, you need to read it. It offers you a huge awakening, awakening that maybe one day we'll have the media saying, she's completely lost it. She's unhinged, because she now realizes what we're up to. Right? Everybody is working for the state. The journalists are working for the state. And you do have these police officers and detectives who are situated in inner cities, usually like Los Angeles, Chicago, who work for the state. And they're supposed to disappear certain things because there is, in my opinion, just a gang that is pretending to went legit, decided to be the state, the CIA. It's just a gang. They kill people, quiet people, and they get rid of cases that they don't want the public to be aware of. And that is all that I'm going to say today, guys. Head to clubcandace.com and you can buy yourself a Santa's cup to support this show, support our independence. And if you haven't yet, what are you doing? Please go to Locals and just give $1. Give $1 today to me. Why not? Please. I'm so nice. I'm working so hard. You can give $1, you can give 50 cents, and it supports the show and it keeps us free. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you, and we will see you tomorrow.